Hello, welcome to White Threads FlossTube number 66. Thank you so much for joining me today. My last video was featured on the Facebook page of the Embroiderers Guild of Victoria, so I believe there could be some new people hanging around here now. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me again today. Today I'm going to show you yet another project from my forthcoming book, Frisian Whitework, Dutch Embroidery from Friesland. So that's coming up. And I had a request from one of my viewers to explain what the threads are in the opener of my video. So at the beginning of the videos, you see a whole lot of threads that are sitting on an angle, and this was just a small part of a very much larger picture. So what I'm going to do for you today is to show you all of those threads and go through and explain what they are and why I have them and what I have used them for, what you could use them for. So I'll just let you see the swipe through of all of the threads. There are some that are duplicated, so I won't go over them again when I get to a duplication. So there's quite a few pearl 5s in there, but here are the threads. So going through all of those threads individually, the first one that I have to show you is a DMC Pearl Cotton 5. This is a thread that I use a lot for harangue embroidery. It comes in other weights as well. Pearl 5 is not the thickest is number 3. So then it's number 3 is the thickest, then there's number 5, then there's number 8, and then there's number 12. If you are familiar with the Presencia range, they also have a 16 weight as well. So this is DMC Pearl 5. Now the next one is just a DMC stranded cotton, or stranded floss as many people refer to it as, and that is a 6-strand thread. That is a divisible thread, and you can separate out those strands and use them separately, or you can use all 6 together. Regardless, I would separate all of the strands of the 6 and put them back together because you'll get a much better result doing that. So I use this for lots of different types of embroidery actually, and a skein like this is really good for making a tassel out of as well. Now the next thread is one that you will probably not have seen before. Some of you may. This is an anchor pearl cotton, which is, it's an Italian thread. It is not available outside of the Italian market, and it's called their Ritorto Fiorentino. This is a number 8, so it's pretty much, I think, the same as a pearl cotton 8, DMC or an anchor one, but this comes in a massive hank, and that's because they obviously use an awful lot of it for Italian needlework. So moving along, the next one we have here is a Renaissance dyeing crewel wool. I got these to try them out for my Smoig book when I was doing it. They are the most beautiful, soft, lovely crewel wools. They're just gorgeous. I don't think I ended up using any of them for the project, but I would not hesitate to use these threads. They come in a lovely range of colours, and if you haven't seen these before, I highly recommend searching them out. The next one we have here is another anchor pearl cotton. This one's in a plait because I've actually used some of this skein, so I just cut the skein open and then plaited it so that it was in a form that would not just become a huge mess, but that I could still use. So when I want to use a thread from this, I take it from this end here and just pull, and it comes out of the plait. And so the plait keeps it nice and tidy, there's no knot at the end or anything, and then I can use it. So that is a number 12 pearl cotton. The next one we have is a Raj Mahal Art Silk, and this is a rayon silk. You can probably tell that by the kinks that it's got in it. I don't use these threads very much at all. I do have them for times when I want to do some embroidery which has got particular sheen to it. I hate working with rayon, but sometimes these are the threads that I want to use. The next one that we have is a DMC cotton broder or broder cotton. This one is a number 26. They do come in a range of different sizes. For my Mereshka book, I was using number 12 thickness, and then they discontinued it, didn't they? So number 12 thickness is actually perfect thickness for quite a few different folk embroideries, and DMC in their wisdom have decided some years ago to discontinue it when some of us still really would very much like it. The same things happened for the other end of the scale, so 12 is really thick. There used to be 50s, I think, and 40s. I think the thinnest you can now get is 35. This is a, did I say 26 before? I meant 25. It doesn't come in 26. So this is a 25. So I think it comes in 20, so 20 is the thickest that now exists. No, 16. Ooh. 16, then 20, then 25, then 30, then 35, I think. I hope 35 is still available. Yep. Okay, so moving along, the next one we have is an Aurora Soie Perle, which is a pearl cotton. Sorry, it's not a pearl cotton, it's a pearl thread, but it's made of silk. So unlike, say, the Anchor or the DMC pearl cotton, this is a silk pearl. It's beautiful. I used these for some of the projects in the Smoig book where I needed a silk highlight, so using a silk highlight was something that they did, and this is the thread that I sometimes used in those projects. The next thread is a, oh, it's got some extra colour, there we are. This is a cotton Flosh DMC one. It doesn't have its label on it anymore, but I can tell that that's what it is because it's so lovely and soft. Now this is very much like cotton abroda, but it's even softer. It's a beautiful thread that is often used for fine whitework embroidery, such as monograms and things like that. It has been extremely difficult to get in Australia. It's starting to come into the market. I'm not sure about its availability in other markets, but it has been very difficult here. So this is very precious thread to me because for a while that was all I could get. Now the next one along is a Colour Streams Aurora Silk. Now this is a very, very thick thread, you can see, and I have used this in my stitch dictionary. I separated out some of the strands and just used, sorry, I'm just trying to separate it out, and just used this like this and couched that down, and it made a lovely big fat couchiness. Yeah, that was a really nice way of putting it. This is a beautiful silk thread. There are probably not many opportunities that you would need to use something as thick as this, but it's a beautiful thread if you ever need to. This one here is a Dinky Dyes stranded silk. It's just like a stranded cotton, but it's silk, so it's really soft and beautiful to work with. I have used these. You probably know by now that I make lots of embroidered pendants, and I find that these threads are beautiful to work with for doing the embroidered pendants. I haven't ever used this one, as you can see by the fact that it's still beautifully tied onto its label. I haven't actually needed to use a white silk. I prefer the coloured ones myself. Then the next one we have is an Aurora Soie Fine Dorbussen wool. This is a very fine wool. I used a lot of these wools in my Smoig book. They are beautiful and fine, and they come in a lovely range of colours, and they're very even along the length of them. So they come off the skein with 4 strands together, and I just separated them out and used single strands. So if you haven't seen them before, I would search them out because they're beautiful threads to work with. They're finer than a crewel wool. A crewel wool is probably just maybe a little bit thicker. Well, it's definitely a bit thicker. It's probably about twice the thickness actually. So these are very fine. Moving along, the next one I have to show you is a Londonderry linen thread. Now I use a lot of these threads. They come in 5 different thicknesses. This is the 100/3, which is the finest thickness that they have. Then they have an 80/3, a 50/3, a 30/3 and an 18/3. 18/3 is quite thick. What I use these for is traditional hardanger. So early style hardanger, they traditionally used a linen thread on linen fabric, not the pearl cotton that is so commonly used today. And they are also used, linen threads were used for the Frisian Whitework. So traditionally, that's historically what they used. So that's what I've used in the book as well. This one is a very, very fine thread, and I would use this only on the finest linens that I've worked on. So this is the sort of thickness that I would use on, say, a 50 count linen. Traditionally, hardanger and Frisian embroidery could have been on counts of up to 100 threads per inch, which is rather a lot. Depending on what you were using, what style you were working in, you could possibly use that on that. But generally, we just don't have fabrics that are that fine these days, or the threads that are fine enough to use on those fabrics. Okay, so the last one I have to show you is a Gumnut Yarns Daisies wool. Anything by Gumnut Yarns is gorgeous. They do a range of silks, and this is one of their beautiful wool threads. So this is a very fine strand, and they also do a thicker one as well, which is Gumnut Yarns. I can't remember. But this is a beautiful fine wool. They are slightly over dyed, so they've got some variation in colour, but they're beautiful. Okay, so they're all the threads that are in the original photo that I used for the opener of my videos. So that gives you an idea of some of the different threads that are available, and some of the ways that I have used them in the past. It might give you some ideas of thread that you would like to search out and try. So hopefully that's opened up some horizons for you. Now, today's project that I'm going to show you from my forthcoming book, Frisian Whitework, Dutch Embroidery from Friesland, is this little biscornu. Now, when I first started seeing biscornu many years ago, I looked at them and I thought, what a useless thing that is. I'm not going to make any of them. I can't imagine what I would use them for. So no, I'm not going to make any. And then as I saw them and saw them and saw them, I thought, what a gorgeous shape they are. And I love the way the corners interlock, and it forms such a beautiful three-dimensional shape where you can see the bottom easily and the top easily. So you've got the two coming together. And eventually I gave in, and I've made gazillions since then. So many of my books, more of the more recent ones, have biscornu in them because I just think they're such a lovely little thing. I still think they're quite useless, but they are gorgeous, and why not have gorgeous things around us, even if they are useless? So this biscornu has a Picot edging worked along the side, and this is a traditional edging that they used to use on the collars of the men's shirts. So it were the men's shirts that had the Frisian Whitework on them, on the collar and a little bit down the front as well. And they worked this Picot edging along the edge of the collar. The reason why they did that was because the collar edges generally have the most wear, or amongst the most wear of any part of the garment, because it rubs against the skin quite a lot. And so if the edges fray there, there's not much you can do to fix it. Whereas if you've got an edging like this there and it gets worn and starts to fray, you can take it off and replace it. So what it did was it was very decorative, but it also increased the longevity of the shirt, because if it started to wear, they could just replace it instead of the whole collar. So it was actually very clever. I had to work out how to do this Picot edging. I had lots and lots of close-up photographs that I had taken when I was at the Fries Museum in Leeuwarden in the Netherlands. but I didn't have great instructions for how to do it. I had some other instructions for similar ones, but they didn't provide the same appearance as this. So I had to go through and work out myself how it was done, then write out the instructions. Then I sent them to two Dutch embroidery experts who are familiar with this style of embroidery, and they both agreed that yes, that was the way that Picot edging could be done. There are probably other methods that work just as well, but they agreed that the one that I had come up with was an authentic way to do it. So that was really good. So also, as well as the edging that we have here, we on the front have, I'm trying to show this to you in a way that you hopefully will be able to see it. We've got some satin stitch of various types. There is top winder stitch, there's whipped back stitch, and there is also a very interesting single feather stitch border, which is actually used, it has some threads taken out and you work along the spaces on the threads. And there are also a couple of eyelets. So it's really decorative and beautiful little biscornu. So that's the one I have to show you today. That is worked on 36 count linen with, I think it's, oh, I don't want to get this wrong. I think it's 80/3 linen thread, Londonderry linen thread. And then it's just got a little button on that side, and then on the back we've got another little pearl button as well. The fabric that I've used on the back is another one of the gorgeous ones from Dutch Heritage. So this is a reproduction of a fabric that they would have made various parts of their traditional costumes out of in times past, where in the style of, well, they would have been chintzes, I guess. And they're just such beautiful fabrics, and I just had to keep using them because they're so gorgeous. And I thought, why not use something that's authentic to the region that it comes from? So yeah, if you can search out the Dutch heritage fabrics, then yeah, go ahead. I will also be doing kits for probably most of the projects in the book, and I have sourced a whole lot of these fabrics, so they will come as part of my kits. So if you don't want to source them yourself, you don't have to. I've done it for you. So that will be coming up. Is there anything else I can tell you about that? No, I think that's the main things. Yeah, but it's just such a really, I think it's just a gorgeous little project, and I love the shape of biscornus, even though they're quite useless. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I would absolutely love it if you did. It just helps me to know that people are out there watching and enjoying these videos. If you'd like to comment, if you have any questions, please do. And I will endeavour to answer them. If you've got suggestions for what I could do future videos on, like I had the suggestion of the threads that I showed you earlier, then please suggest. I may be able to do it, I may not, but you know, worthwhile suggesting, because I might just be able to do it. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.